Hi, I'm Ariel. It's my D. Today here for my speech, I have my mom who's filming, my grandpa, Wade, and then my grandma. I had to reason this out of my mind. There was one of two things that I had a right to, liberty or death, and if I couldn't have one, I would have the other. These determined words came from a conductor. In fact, she was more than a conductor. She was a spy, a nurse, an abolitionist, a suffrage member, a cook, a former slave, and most importantly, a leader in the figurative Underground Railroad. Harriet Tubman was a recognized successful leader because of her 19 risky journeys back into Maryland and releasing over 300 slaves into Freedom Land during 1850 and 1858. After reading documents, viewing textbooks, and self-summarizing the qualities a great leader should possess, it condensed down into three main aspects. Through my speech, I'll go through how passion, confrontation, influence, and motivation all play a role in transforming Harriet into a leader by influencing slavery in an astounding way. First, great leaders have a continuation of motives and strive to act responsibly on them. She was born in 1820, one of 11. Harriet watched families get sold and treated with cruelty. Harriet's parents were full-blooded Africans. We would be astonished. A warrior people, as I found in Bentley's article. Growing up, her parents had Harriet on the mindset that their people will not suffer any longer and a warrior will stand up. The personal afflictions suffered in her childhood were not treated as an excuse, but a driving force behind her mission. As a child, experiencing her own discouraging encounters, she had intentions of succeeding the slaveholders. She was hired out as a nursemaid at age 7 to watch a slaveholder's baby and stay awake at the baby's expense. She was beaten for noises the child would make or if she was caught falling asleep. During an incident, she was not going to take it anymore. These next words were cited by the 2002 book, We Are Your Sisters, said to be the exact words after being interviewed during the Civil War of her first run. The next minutes, she had to rawhide down. I gave one jump out the door and saw they come after me. But I just flew, and they didn't catch me. I ran, and I ran. Finally returning home, she was beaten and placed out of the plantation, where the beginning of her leadership formed, building up muscular endurance and mental strategies, planning of escape, and deep religious faith became her trademark along the way. Leaders with motives make the best ones, and Harriet's last motive would affect the rest of her life and strengthen her leadership. In 1835, Tubman was in an attempt to prevent the pursuit of a fugitive slave, was struck in the head with a 2-pound iron weight, intended for the fugitive. Her skull left fractured. Harriet was no longer considered valuable, but later she would prove the involvement in her Underground Railroad and Civil War just how valuable a worker she was. Every motivation has its results, and now that Harriet had every motive to make such a remarkable action to impact slavery, she was dealt hazardous chances as well. For a great leader, confronts fears, takes risks, yet needs no title to do so. Harriet's risk of harm to herself didn't prevent from an unending battle of freedom for slaves. Whether risk her life for one single slave or 100 slaves at a time, Harriet did whatever it took to free others. According to a write-up of a graduate student, Nelson, in 1849, Harriet took her moment to escape. Along with her came her 2 brothers, whom ended up turning back in fear. Harriet had reached freedom. However, now the joy was short-lived because she had left everyone back at home. In Pennsylvania, she settled as a cook, a laundress, and a maid to support herself and save enough to return. Making her first leader action in 1849, she joined the abolitionist movement, where she learned about the Underground Railroad. In 1850, the Fugitive Slave Law was passed, making it illegal for runaway slaves to help others. Harriet knew her time had come, where the warrior in her needed to be a leader. However, a great leader doesn't need a title of authority to be great. In fact, Harriet was given the title conductor, and from that she was recognized as one of the most influential leaders in the Underground Railroad. Harriet departed the safety of Pennsylvania in recruit of others in Maryland. Within 10 years, Harriet had risked and saved over 300 slaves within 19 excursions. Harriet, now a leader at heart, always had the faith of God in her heart and shared it with other fugitives on the run, often by praying to comfort them and singing hymns and rejoice. Harriet added risk with the Fugitive Slave Act had now doubled when an astonishing $40,000 bond was placed on her head. Yet she didn't slow down and instead built her potential higher. As courageous leader, Harriet was inflicted fear in slaveholders, hope in slavery. She made such an impact that on Friday, June 12, 2014, a tablet in her honor was unveiled at the Auditorium, Albany. Found in a writing of Women of Achievement, wrote for women of the American Baptist Home Mission Society in 1919, cites the words on the tablet saying, "Called the Moses of her people during the Civil War, with rare courage she led over 300 Negroes up from the slavery to freedom and rendered invaluable service as nurse and spy with implicit trust in God, braved every danger, and overcame any obstacle with all she possessed, extraordinary foresight and judgment, so that she truthfully said, 'On my Underground Railroad, I never ran off my track, and I never lost a passenger.'" Like the words you just heard, Harriet was full of them, always acting in inspiration and showing her passion for their people. Leading us to the third and last common quality making it for a great leader. For every great leader recognizes their dependence on others and becomes influential with powerful words and actions to show their deep passion for a group and to serve justice. Taking back to the moment where Harriet took her first steps on the free land, she had an unconscious decision to make, to either stay here and be safe and alone, or act out and liberate her family. With the decision of acting out, Harriet's passion for people was flaunted. As a matter of fact, according to Brawley's Word of Achievement book, Harriet's first rescue in 1850 was that of her sisters and 2 nieces. Harriet's passion for family and freedom shone out by totaling up to rescuing her 5 brothers with family, and even rescuing her 70-year-old parents in 1854. According to the article, Harriet Tubman, leader of the Underground Railroad, Harriet also worked at liberating the hearts of those one helped them so along the way. Words are one of Harriet's most influential acts. If anyone had the thought of turning back out the fear, Harriet removed the fear by pulling out a pistol that Harriet carried with her, saying, "Dead Negroes tell no lies, go on or die." By this method, she forced many onward and win the goal of freedom. Stopping her treks to the south, she found another passion in 1860, beginning an intensive speaking tour in 1860, calling not only for abolitionists of slavery, but also the redefinition of women's rights. Last, as a way to make her final serve of justice, in 1861, when the Civil War began, she served as a nurse, a spy, and a scout. While familiar with the countryside as a conductor, she was considered especially vulnerable. All in all, Harriet Tubman was a great leader of the 19th century. Whether it was on the Underground Railroad or during the Civil War, people followed her lead, which was rarity for women at the time, let alone being an African American woman. Accomplishing much during her lifetime, Harriet Tubman wasn't immune to the boundaries of her gender or race, for she wasn't always respected with recognition she deserved. However, in the present, known as Moses of her people, Harriet Tubman is remembered as a powerful figure in American and African history by demonstrating passion confrontation, influence, and motivation. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yay!